Does anyone else have any questions more on the real estate front?
Hi, I'm Kate. I heard you say earlier that you sort of delineate your clients between the pre-COVID lookers and the post-COVID. And my husband and I were looking pre-COVID, and we're sort of now in a little bit of a holding pattern because we live in Riverdale and we need to sell our apartment. And I guess we have this, well, not him, I'll speak for myself. I have this anxiety and this concern that, we're in a funny spot because a month ago, or rather 2 months ago, it felt like, mortgage rates were really low and, the prices were negotiable on houses in Westchester. And now I feel like everyone's fleeing. And I heard you also say that a lot of people are looking to rent, but I worry now that we sort of missed the mark and that the prices are going to skyrocket. And then it brings up this whole new question of, do we keep trying to go now as fast as we can before it hits its peak? Or now do we stop and do we wait?
It's a really, really, really good question. Actually, Poonam can answer this question. No, I joked with them, her and her husband the other day that I wish you had bought, a few right before this all happened. Because it is a little bit more difficult right now because our inventory is certainly lower than it ever has been. There are still homes on the market. The rental thing is out of control. It is next to impossible. I mean, every rental, I have one of my agents on here, Shane has a rental. She's got, 4 or 5 offers on one rental. It's that part is really difficult. In terms of waiting, it's really hard to say. I mean, I get this question all the time. Should you wait, for more inventory to come? I'm not so sure. There's, Lower Westchester always has limited supply of inventory because we are so close to the city and it's, very desirable and people want the easier commute and so forth. So we always have, pretty low inventory. It's definitely 40% lower than it had been. But, I would probably say, be educated now, make sure, have the Heather Harrison team help you figure out which town is right for you, basically, so that you're educated. And I would probably say, do it now before more news comes out, in terms of what the governor is going to come out with next. And, every day the news is changing constantly. I mean, now we're dealing with the camp situation, all the camps being closed. So that's even, I'm noticing like even a new wave of people, wanting to move to the suburbs. And so I would probably say, do it now because I think in the short term prices may increase actually, in the short term. It really all depends on your situation too. Like if you, are you worried if you're trying to go to school in the fall, things like that. The good news is in Lower Westchester, you could enroll your kids in the public schools up until Labor Day. So you don't have to worry about like in the city, I know you deal with private schools and, paying all this tuition and losing your deposit and all of that. We don't have those concerns with our public schools here in Westchester. They're pretty good about, being able to enroll. I actually was thinking about calling the district to see if they've seen an increase in enrollment since this, because I think that would be a really interesting stat, to come by and see how that has, played a part in all of this. Dina, start again. You were muted.
Sorry, hi.
Okay, hi.
I would just say in the river towns, as people on our team know, I was hysterical about the low inventory in January and February. So the inventory in the river towns has been low all year, and now it's even lower. So I would definitely tell people to be educated, and if something comes on the market, it goes fast. If it's a good house, it's going. So I would definitely
Thank you.
educated.
Yeah. I think I think getting educated now, making sure you know what the comps are, making sure you understand the market and so forth. And so that you are ready to make an offer, right away, because I think that's what we are seeing for sure. But we can help. Another question I get, like, what are people looking for in the suburbs? I mean, right now, I think people are looking for, a little bit of a backyard space, obviously. They are concerned about camps not happening. So the green space is a nice thing. People are looking for that. They're looking for privacy, obviously. Obviously a pool has become, I think searches on the Compass website, what were they up? Like 200%, for homes with pools on the Compass website, our CEO told us last week. So, that's pretty telling right there. If you are thinking about selling your home, I probably would tell my own parents, are they on here? I would probably tell my own parents probably now would be a good time to list their home. if there's ever been a time in recent times, it would be good. It would be good now. You probably have your best shot. It's just tricky, right now because a lot of people in Lower Westchester, we have a lot, obviously a lot of people who've lived in their homes for many, many, many years who, understandably don't necessarily want to let people into their homes, so that does make it a little bit more challenging in terms of, being able to see the properties. But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of where we're at. But right now, I would say prices are beginning to escalate, but it's more just the activity level that is up. Any final thoughts? I actually have one last question for each of our what if any of us, God forbid, do come down with COVID, it is a very scary concept. Would you have any advice for us, if it does, happen? And the good news is it looks like the numbers are coming down, but obviously we're all at risk. Do you guys have any advice on how to deal emotionally, mentally, and physically? Right. Yeah.
My advice that I give, I want to say multiple times a day to people who are calling in with COVID symptoms is not to be anxious, and most importantly, to monitor your symptoms. And I think that's it. Most people will do very, very well. And we want to remember that most people, majority of people who get COVID end up doing just fine. But it's when your symptoms start to decline that you want to make sure you seek help immediately. And that's really it. That would be my one piece of advice for anybody who may come down with COVID or who's worried about getting COVID.
Great. Thank you. Marissa, what about you?
The one thing that my doctor told me to do was, like, once I started having trouble breathing, was to sleep on my stomach. And it actually really helped me breathe a lot easier. That's like the one thing that I can say really, really helped me. I think, like, when you're lying on your back, your lungs tend to, like, the fluid tends to settle in your back. I'm not a doctor. I'm sure Poonam can explain this a little bit better than I can. But that one thing really, really helped me when I was having trouble breathing. And, obviously the things like drinking a lot of water and just making sure that you, like, keep in touch with, like, friends and family, because you are isolated. So, like, that social support really, really helps you get through it.
Great, thank you. Kate, what about you? Any advice?
I would say that one of the biggest misconceptions that I had was that I was going to have this for 2 weeks and then I was going to feel better. And my symptoms were lasting well into 45 days after. And I still have some residual effects in my lungs. And so everyone has an individual experience. This was my experience. I kind of wish that I hadn't set myself up for, being able to go out for a run with the jog stroller at day 15. I'm still nowhere near where I was the day before, all of this went down.
Thank you. We have one more question. I'm going to direct this actually to Greg. Greg, regarding New York City rent, can you get 10% off the price?
The rentals actually, we've actually been able to rent our listings pretty quickly, and I've been completely amazed at the sheer number of inquiries we're getting on each individual rental that we have. I think it's just because people need a home, and maybe rentals are just far less of a commitment, and we've been easily able to get them done without facilitating a showing, very, very easily.
Yeah.
So I haven't yet personally seen massive discounts in rent. I think there's probably some discounting, but I haven't seen massive discounting. If anything, I've seen it more on the sale side, but certainly not in the way that you've probably been hearing about in the media on the sale side. Just it hasn't been. The discounting from the asks have been mainly 3 to 10%. Falling within that range.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. That's actually a great point. Going back to the rental discussion, most of the rental deals that I've done have all been virtually. They actually never stepped foot into the property. So basically, they just did it through virtual tours or through Matterport, through that type of thing. And actually, I'm even doing some virtual tours for sale because people, like I said, like there's so few rentals left now, they're deciding whether they should buy. I did a 40-minute tour the other day myself on FaceTime, and then I did my whole, Heather Harrison, tour of Scarsdale, literally on FaceTime, showing the school, showing the park, literally on FaceTime. So, they're like, are we really going to buy a house this way? And you know what? I know there's been a lot of success stories like that in Manhattan where people are buying apartments that way, and we're starting to see that here too. So it's.
Well, we have the tools now to be able to show them literally every inch of the property, so they have a very easy way to assess value now, whereas before they didn't have that as much. I do think it takes a little bit of an educated buyer, or an experienced buyer, somebody who had been looking beforehand
Totally agree.
to, have a comfort level with doing something like that.
For sure, I absolutely agree. Does anyone else have any other questions? Otherwise, I'll let everyone go back to their families and enjoy this beautiful weekend. We have some great weather here, so. But yeah, no, if anyone on this call wants to take a tour with us, where our team would love to help guide you through the process. Greg is a great partner in the city, and we'd be happy to help in any way we can. And I can't thank my panelists enough for participating in this and helping give us their perspectives on living in the city, living in the suburbs, and what it was like to suffer from this terrible illness. But I really appreciate everyone's time this evening, and hope everyone has a great weekend. Thanks so much.